A sect is a subgroup of a religious, political or philosophical belief system, usually an offshoot of a larger religious group. Although it used to be mostly used to refer to religious groups, it can now refer to any organization that breaks away from a larger one to follow a different set of rules and principles. The term is occasionally used in a malicious way to suggest the broken-off group follows a more negative path than the original. The historical usage of the term sect in Christendom has had pejorative connotations and refers to a group or movement with heretical beliefs or practices that deviate from those of groups considered orthodox. A sect, in an Indian context, refers to an organized tradition. Etymology: the word sect comes from the Latin noun sector, meaning a way, road, and figuratively a way, mode, or manner, and hence metonymously, a discipline, a school of thought as defined by a set of methods and doctrines. The present gamut of meanings of sect has been influenced by confusion with the homonymous Latin word secta, as though sects were a Dictionary entry cast aside from the mainstream religion. Sociological definitions and descriptions. There are several different sociological definitions and descriptions for the term. Among the first to define them were Max Weber and Ernst Troeltsch. In the church sect typology, they are described as newly formed religious groups that form to protest elements of the parent religion. Their motivation tends to be situated in accusations of apostasy or heresy in the parent denomination. They are often decrying liberal trends in denominational development and advocating a return to true religion. The American sociologists Rodney Stark and William Sims Bainbridge assert that sects claim to be authentic, purged, refurbished version of the faith from which they split. They further assert that sects have, in contrast to churches, a high degree of tension with the surrounding society. Other sociologists of religion such as Fred Niss have asserted that sectarianism is best described with regard to what of sect is in tension with. Some religious groups exist in tension only with co-religious groups of different ethnicities, or exist in tension with the whole of society rather than the church which the sect originated from. Sectarianism is sometimes defined in the sociology of religion as a worldview that emphasizes the unique legitimacy of believers' creed and practices and that heightens tension with the larger society by engaging in boundary-maintaining practices. The English sociologist Roy Wallace argues that a sect is characterized by epistemological authoritarianism. Sects possess a more authoritative locus for the legitimate attribution of heresy. According to Wallace, sects lay a claim to possess unique and privileged access to the truth of salvation, and their committed adherents typically regard all those outside the confines of the collectivity as in error. He contrasts this with a cult that he described as characterized by epistemological individualism, by which he means that the cult has no clear locus of final authority beyond the individual member. In other languages, the corresponding words for sect in European languages other than English, sectate, sectate, sector, secta, sector, sect, sectaensis secta, refer to a harmful religious sect and translate into English as cult. In France, since the 1970s, sectate has a specific meaning which is very different from the English word. In Buddhism, in Jainism, in Christianity, while the historical usage of the term sect in Christendom has had pejorative connotations, referring to a group or movement with heretical beliefs or practices that deviate from those of groups considered orthodox, its primary meaning is to indicate a community which has separated itself in some way from the larger body from which its members came and to which they may or may not still adhere. The term remains valid for this purpose. Roman Catholic sects. There are many groups outside the Roman Catholic Church which regard themselves as Catholic, such as the Community of the Lady of All Nations, the Palmarian Catholic Church, the Philippine Independent Church, the Brazilian Catholic Apostolic Church, the Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments of God, the Neo-Catechumenal Way, and others. In Hinduism, the Indologist Axel Michaels writes in his book about Hinduism that in an Indian context the word sect does not denote split or excluded community, but rather an organized tradition, usually established by a founder with ascetic practices. Quote, according to Michaels, Indian sects do not focus on heresy, since the lack of a center or a compulsory center makes this impossible. Instead, the focus is on adherents and followers. In Islam, the ancient schools of fiqh sharia in Islam are known as madhabs. Quote, in the beginning Islam was classically divided into three major sects. These political divisions are well known as Sunni Islam, Shia Islam and Khariji Islam. Each sect developed several distinct jurisprudence systems reflecting their own understanding of the Islamic law during the course of the history of Islam. For instance, Sunnis are separated into 5 subsects, namely Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, and Ahiri. The Shia, on the other hand, first developed Kaysanism, which in turn divided into 3 major groupings known as Fivers, Seveners and Twelvers. The Zaydis separated first. The non-Zaydis are initially called as Rafida groups. These Rafidis were later divided into 2 subgroups known as Imamiyya and Batiniya. The Imami Shia later brought into existence Ja'fari jurisprudence. Akbarism, Usulism, and Shaykhism were all ensued as variations of Ja'fari fiqh, while Alawites and Alevis, who are not the strict followers of Ja'farism, are developed separately from the teachings of Ithnashari Imams. Batiniya groups, on the other hand, were divided into 2 subgroups known as Seveners and Ishmaelis. Carmatians who did not follow the Fatimid Caliphate were branched from the Seveners. Those groups of Batiniya who followed the Fatimids are the ancestors of today's Ishmaelis. Druze was emerged as an offshoot of Ismailism at the beginning of the 11th century. Ishmaelism at the end of the 11th century split into 2 major branches known as Nizari Ismaili and Mustali Ismaili. As a result of the assassination of Fatimid Caliph al-Amir by Arkamiullah, Mustali was once more again divided into Hafizis and Tayyabi Ismailis. The Khawarij were initially divided into 5 major branches: Sufris, Hazarika, Najdat, Ajarites and Ibadis. The Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali Sunnis, the Twelver groups, the Ishmaeli groups, the Zaydis, the Ibadis, and the Ahiris continue to exist. In addition, new sects like Ahmadiyya movement, Black Muslim movements, Gulen movement, Quranists, Salafis, Wahhabis, and Zikris have been emerged independently. Amman Message, an Islamic convention held in Jordan in July 2005, which brought 200 Muslim scholars from over 50 countries together, announced the official recognition of 8 schools of Islamic jurisprudence and the varying schools of Islamic theology. The 8 recognized Islamic schools and branches are Sunni Hanafi, Sunni Maliki, Sunni Shafi'i, Sunni Hanbali, Shia Imami, Shia Zaydi, Khariji Ibadi, Sunni Ahiri.